cause and effect. So when we see an effect, we assume that there must be a cause. In the old, ancient, Arabian tradition, they used to say that camel doo-doo, the feces of the camel, indicates the camel. That is, if you were on the desert and you saw some camel feces, you don't start to wonder, how did these feces get here? Did they evolve out of the sand somehow? Did something fall from the sky and mix with the things of the earth to produce it? No. You see the feces, doo-doo, you said it was a camel. You just came by. This is where that came from. This is common sense. Common sense tells us or shows us that the complexity of life here did not come by accident. The design which exists did not, come by chance. But in fact, there had to be a designer. There had to be one to put this whole system into running. And if that one were a part of the system, then the system could not exist. There has to be one who is outside of the system, who is not governed by the system. Because if he's governed by the system, then the system cannot come into existence. Logic. So it is possible to go in with both the atheists of the communists as well as those of the capitalists to bring them to an understanding of God, which is already inside their hearts. There's a verse in the Quran where Allah says, وَجَحَدُوا بِاللَّهِ وَاسْتَيْقَنَتْهُ أَنفُسَهُمْ. They denied the existence of Allah, but their hearts know He exists for sure. They are certain inside their hearts. Because, as Allah said in the Quran, when He created Adam, He took from Adam all of his descendants. And He made them bear witness. أَلَسْتُ بِرَبِّكُمْ? Am I not your Lord? And they all, بَلَا شَهِدْنَا, they all bore witness. Yes. Certainly you are our Lord. And Allah went on to explain why. Because He did not want on the day of judgment that they could come and say, we didn't know about this. Of both gods and everything. No. Nor could they say that it's our parents, it's because of our foreparents. Are you going to blame us for what our foreparents did? They're the ones. Blame them, put them in hell. No. You can't come with that argument on the day of judgment. Because it is in our very souls. Knowledge of God is imprinted in our souls. That's why in Islam, this belief is called kufr. Kufr, which means concealing or covering up. Prior to Islam, the term kafara, kufr, in Arabic meant the action of the farmer. When he dug a hole in the ground, he put the seed in the hole, and he put the earth back over it, covering up the seed. That was kafara. When Islam came, it put a new meaning to that word. That the disbelievers know in their hearts. So, if a person is honest, and you work with them logically, so and so, inshallah, you can bring them back to that reality, which they already know. Now, the other major group is that of the theists. The theists, those who believe in God, may be divided into two main groups. Ahlul Kitab, the people of the scriptures, Christians and the Jews, and the pagans, those who have no scriptures, who are worshipping idols in one form or another. What you find when you look at the pagans is that fundamentally they are monotheistic. The Hindus, who we know have so many different gods, statues, idols, etc. When you actually go into their religion, you find that they have one main god, Brahman, who is the god over all. However, he may take different forms and, interact with human beings, and, this is how the other gods evolved. Or he had different forms in which he took, And in the case of the Buddhists, of course, they're divided into two different sects. You have a group amongst them who are atheists, who really don't talk about God at all. And then you have a second group which do have a concept of God. So, if you go through most of the various groups, whether they be nature worshippers or whatever, what you're going to find for the vast majority is that they do have a concept of one God. But they have put intermediaries between themselves and God. And when we come to Christianity, though we look at Christianity as a different group, people of the scriptures, what we find in fact is that they are not too much different from the rest of the pagans. This is why Allah said, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ ثَالِثُ ثَلَاثٍ. Those who say that Allah is the third of three, just believe. They are pagans. So, the argument for the Christians and the pagans are essentially one. But because of the differences in their backgrounds, you're going to approach it slightly different. In the case of the pagans, you may just want to work logically with them. In the case of the Hindus, for example, you can just try to work them towards the concept of what is their main god, Shiva, favorite, worshipped in Benares. This is their Mecca, the place where they make pilgrimage to Benares. And that main god is represented by an erect male organ. If a person has got any kind of thought in their mind thinking, this be God. What are you worshipping here? And just going through the process, I think, for people to reflect a little bit, it doesn't take too much to get out of that. If they're not, you could say, fanatic. If they're fanatic, then of course, it doesn't matter, They're going to defend it knowing it's wrong. But if the person is open, then it doesn't take too much to show him really that this is nonsense. And then they say, well, we don't worship actually this actual idol that you see there, these are like representations of God, But they, still, what kind of representations have you got here? Where do you get this stuff from? Is this revealed by God? Do you think God revealed for you to worship Him in this form? Or in any of these other forms? No. These men, human beings, made up these things. Let us go back to find what God really wants for us. How we should really worship God. And you believe the Brahma really is an unseen God. Let's go back to worshiping God unseen. Let's go back to the scriptures which speak about this. For the Christians, of course, we have the approach showing them either that the scriptures that they're using are questionable, not really that authentic, because there's so many contradictions. We can show them the contradictions. This is one approach. Although for many Christians, actually, this is not, they don't like this, because it's too critical. Too critical. So this is only useful really to somebody who is already critical. If he or she is already critical of Christianity, they feel it's wrong, you can support it and reinforce it by showing these contradictions. This is the Ahmed Deedat approach, right? And his approach, as I said, his approach is something which evolved out of confrontation, because he was in a confrontational circumstance, You had these, Sharush or, Swaggart, or, he was,